So alongside the release of these two tablets that have gone global now, the Xiaomi Pad 7 and Pad 7 Pro, we have the Xiaomi 15. And really, it's like the Xiaomi 14. They've upgraded just a few things. We have now an ultrasonic fingerprint reader instead of optical, a battery capacity. This is the big improvement, which is now 5,400 milliamp hours. It's a silicon carbon battery. Still got the 90-watt charging and the wireless 50-watt charging and the chipset. So it's a Snapdragon 8 Elite. So that's an upgrade from the previous model. So is it enough to entice buyers to get the global version of this Xiaomi 15?
And what does Xiaomi include in the box with the Xiaomi 15? Well, not a lot. As you'll see here, we do get at least a case and a charging cable. Bit of paperwork just behind that. The phone, obviously. But that's it. There's no charger included in the box, at least with this version that I got of the global model. So it's great to have a flagship small phone because most phones are pretty big now, but this is 6.36 inches, which some will still probably say is a little on the big size, but for 2025 and the way flagships are, this is actually nice to have a smaller size here. I wouldn't call it super compact, but it's pretty good here. Weight-wise, well, 192 grams, and the thickness of it is 8.5 millimeters. So the camera setup on the rear, we have 350 megapixel cameras, so an ultra wide, our main camera, and then a telephoto zoom one. Now this is 2.6 times the optical zoom. You may see it advertised as a 3 times camera, but in fact it's optical at 2.6 there. So a little bit of a downgrade compared to the Xiaomi 14, which is a bit unfortunate there. And the square camera module. Now there is a sensor within here too. We've got a color spectra sensor and a autofocus laser there to assist it. Now it's a metal alloy build. The SIM tray takes 2 nano SIMs, so no micro SD card support. This supports video out Type-C port, which is great. And it supports 90 watts maximum charging, loudspeaker, and the earpiece acts as another loudspeaker. That's also a dual tone LED flash. So good build, nice size. And I like the green version here. It's not over the top. It's a pastel green, and it's quite a light shade of green too as well, compared to my background, which is quite a strong color. This is a little bit docile in comparison there. Now at the top, IR transmitter, nope, that's missing. And of course, no 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. Front-facing camera, 32 megapixels, and an ultrasonic fingerprint reader that works really well. Our battery within is silicon carbon. It's 5,400 milliamp hours. And we've of course got the Snapdragon 8 Elite, the latest and greatest for 2025 flagships. We saw flagships with it in late 2024. So my version here has 12 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gigabytes of UFS 4 storage. You can get it with up to a terabyte and 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is good. So focusing a little on the screen here, this is a flat screen, so there's no curvature to it at all. It's an LTPO AMOLED, and it's a display that I'm very fond of. I like the size of it. It's 120 Hertz, so it's nice and fluid, and it does offer very good brightness. You can see in direct sunlight right now. I can see it. It's very clear. And that occasional black pulse you see, that's just to do with the pulse width modulation with my camera. But no, it's a very good display. Fares quite well. Now, officially, they claim it's supposed to be 3200 nits peak, and that's with HDR content. Again, I'm not being able to measure that. It just seems to be what they do. Whether or not that they can measure that themselves, I don't know. I think it's a bit of just marketing. But anyway, it's bright. You can see it in sunlight, so that's the main thing. So refresh rate up to 120. Is there a 90 Hertz option? No. But the Pad 7 tablets have that, but we don't get it here with the Xiaomi 15, unfortunately. Now, just the punch hole cut out at the top for that 32 megapixel selfie camera. Gestures, touch support, with the touch, response is very good, excellent. I've not experienced any problems with it at all. It is a flagship grade screen. The resolution is 1200 by 2670 pixels, and that gives us a PPI of 460. So it is sharp, and it's using a shatter-proof glass, which is Xiaomi's own. It's supposed to be very resistant to drops and has a strong build. There's no gap around the edges either, so it's nice and flat and flush, which I like to see. Now, HyperOS, I have enabled the apps drawer here as well, and that's based off Android 15. Fluidity of it, the animations and going through recent apps and everything is very quick, and I'm pleased with the performance. No bugs either. On first boot of the phone, you will see a bit of bloatware. It's not too bad. It's nothing like the Poco phone. So you can see we've got 8 applications there that I consider to be bloat. There were a few others on there, probably about 12 or so in total that I've counted. It has a widevine level 1 cert, and yes, it does support Dolby Vision and HDR with this screen, which is good. So you can see Netflix, Amazon Prime Video in full HD. Camera 2, API support level 3. So if you want to use Gcam, Open Camera, other third-party camera apps, you can. So my fixed battery life test here that I know is not a realistic use of the phone, but I've used it for so long, I continue to do so because of my reviews. You can compare it to other phones. I always set the same brightness and it loops and just keeps going through its benchmark until the battery gets to 20%. And it went for 14 hours and 1 minute, which is a phenomenal score. Now, I did have the automatic refresh rate set there, so it wasn't forced to 120. Otherwise, this would probably be around about the 2-hour mark, I would say. It definitely takes an impact on the battery life there. It hits it a lot harder, 120 hertz versus 60, which we know, of course. Realistically, around about 9 hours, 8 hours of screen on time. It is very good for this phone. Couple of tests here that I did with the charging speed. So because we don't have a charger included, I have to use my own one. Then you can use other chargers that support power delivery. But I used a Xiaomi charger, which did give me the 90 watts maximum that it is able to do here. So that's a bit of a step down from other flagships we saw from Xiaomi that were 120. They're sticking with the 90 watts now for obvious reasons, maybe to do with the longevity of the battery. But anyway, it took 46 minutes, which I think is reasonable, but that's not breaking any records compared to what we've seen, again, previously from the much quicker rates of about, say, 24 minutes. But it's all right. Anything in my books under an hour is a very good charge rate. So a lot faster than other brands like Samsung and Apple, of course. Internal storage speeds are excellent, very good there. The random read access as well. And AI reads, if you're into that sort of AI stuff, it's still very good there at 480 megabytes per second. And the sequentials all looking good. Everything checks out. So just over 2.6 million when it comes to synthetic benchmarks. And Antutu here, which is great, good score. Not the highest I've seen for the Snapdragon 8 Elite, but it is up there. And yes, the phone did get a little hot around the frame and on the back when running benchmarks. You also get that with gaming. And I wanted to run 3D Mark, but for some reason, Xiaomi has, yet again, I've seen this before, blocked access to the servers. I can never get it. I cannot actually get a workaround for this. I've tried a VPN even. It's something to do internally with the phone that's blocking their servers, and they even mentioned that that could happen. Some devices block online connections from benchmarking apps. Xiaomi's done that. I don't know why, but that's what we have there. So overall, good performance from it, and the synthetic benchmark score really high for a smaller size phone, flagship phone. Time to talk now a little bit about the haptics and call quality. I don't normally mention haptics unless it's really good, and here I'm still going to mention it, but it's not that wonderful. I find the haptics with the phone here just to be a little on the light side. It could be a bit of a stronger pulse that you get from it when you type. It is good, don't get me wrong. It's a short little burst, but I felt better. I felt better from Xiaomi with some of their older phones. Things like the Poco F2 Pro or the K30 Pro Zoom. I still rate as one of the better ones from them. So it's a shame they've kind of never really reached that level again with haptics. Call quality sounds good. There's active noise cancellation in the background. There's no problems with proximity sensors or anything like that we've seen with some of their more budget phones, or more affordable phones, I should say, from them. But this track now that I'm going to play, we'll test out those dual loudspeakers. So there, and then from the earpiece, a little bit of bass to them, very good volume, and I rate these loudspeakers as a pretty average 7.5 above. Average would be around 7. So they're good, and I think most people are going to be very pleased with them. So here's that sample. Now let me upgrade that rating to an 8 out of 10. I think for a smaller device, for a smaller flagship, these are excellent loudspeakers. Now, gaming performance, it is good. Snapdragon 8 Elite, as expected. You're going to get top performance out of this. All the games in the store are going to play really well with good frame rates. Now, we've got their game boost. That's still on board. If I swipe from the side here, I can bring that up. and you can boost it to clear the RAM and put it into the highest performance mode. Now the phone will heat up a little bit when gaming. It's nothing alarming. I do believe that Xiaomi's throttling the Snapdragon 8 Elite a little to maintain the temperatures. After all, it's a slightly smaller phone than the Pro model, which by the way, I don't know if that's going to be global or not. So you feel some heat around here and around the frame a little bit when you game for longer extended periods. But it's all fine. It checks out. I don't need to break out a thermal imaging probe or anything because it doesn't get to scorching hot temperatures, which is good. Says our camera application. You could see the photo options. We've got the ultra wide main, 2x preset, then 2.6 optical, 5 video. We can shoot 4K 30 and 60 and 8K 24. And yes, if you tap here again, they do have now the 8K 30 option. I criticized in the past Xiaomi for not having 8K 30. It's good to see that they've updated and now have that with their phones. Pro mode, you've got a lot of different options there, so it works for both photos and video. And if I get out of this, I just go quickly into the photo mode and show you, we have, of course, Leica, their presets. So you've got Leica Authentic and Vibrant, and you also have the Leica Portrait mode too as well that you're able to select. So you've got their Portrait Master and Leica Portrait. Master Portrait is the other one, but the Leica one is the one I do prefer there. It offers a more traditional, kind of almost vintage Leica style to it, which some people may prefer, and you can see the different focal lengths that we can select there. So the front-facing camera, 32 megapixels, you can shoot 4K 30, 4K 60, it has electronic image stabilization, and overall good quality. So with our rear cameras, as I pointed out when we looked at the design of the phone, 3 50 megapixel cameras. This is our ultra-wide here with electronic image stabilization. Now you can shoot 4K 60, 4K 30, and we do get 8K with the main camera, but not the ultra-wide and the zoom camera. So this is pretty steady. Let's go over to the main camera now, which has optical image stabilization as well as electronic, and this is looking quite steady. You can see a few movements as I walk down here, and then we've got a preset which is 2.6 times zoom, and then now 5 times. Now look at this house here that one day is going to fall into the water. I keep saying that, and I'm surprised it's still there and still someone living in it. Back to the 1 times and the ultra wide again. When I pan around, I do sometimes see some judder. So yes, even in 2025, Android still suffering from that. Now there's a little bit of wind, but what I did enable through the audio settings for video is there's smart noise cancellation, noise filtering, so it should filter out any wind noise, hopefully, but at the cost of the quality of probably how I sound. Well, still, so I've noticed that with the selfies, they can sometimes be a little bit overexposed. Portrait as well, you look at my face, tiny bit overexposed there. And this now is the rear camera. Main camera, portrait, looking good. I used the 35 preset, 35mm, which I prefer around 30-35mm. And indoors and outdoors looking good. So this is the main camera. You can see we fit quite a bit in the shot. I take the zoom up then to 60 and then 120 millimeters, which is 5 times digital zoom. And finally to 5 times, which is a 230 millimeter equivalent. It looks all right, but there's a bit of noise in there. This is the 5 times preset again, which I think does take a decent shot. Here again, the 5 times, 120 millimeter, good looking photo with a lot of details. Macro shots tend to look pretty good as well. You can see a lot of details here with the pollen, with this white flower especially. And finally, low light performance, not bad for a smaller flagship phone. I'm pretty pleased here with the results. It does look a lot brighter than what it really is. And selfies, okay, some noise here. That's the weakness with low light, is the front-facing camera. Ultra-wide shots, 14mm equivalent. They are detailed, and depending on what profile you use, either the Leica Vibrant or the Authentic, as choosing between having more natural colors or a little bit oversaturated. There is a little bit of over-sharpening happening, I noticed, with the ultra-wide.
So all up, the upgrades are welcomed, yes, but it's a bit disappointing that Xiaomi didn't do more with this model, I feel. Okay, ultrasonic fingerprint reader, very good. Let me demonstrate that. I mean, it works every single time. That's a welcome change from the optical from before, but it was not really that bad. It still worked about 9 out of 10 times. This is now about a 10 out of 10 time with the ultrasonic, much better of course. So charge rate, 90 watts, still very good, still the same as last year, 50 watt wireless, same as last year, build, same as last year, look of it, same as last year, and I believe the ultra wide and the main camera are the same as last year, but the zoom camera downgraded. So instead of the 3.2 times that we had from before, or 3 times optical, it is now 2.6 times optical zoom, and that's a little bit of a disappointment there. So a downgrade there. We have Android 15 now and HyperOS 2. The performance is great with the global ROM version of it is excellent. So there's no micro SD card reader, no 3.5mm headphone jack. Yes, we already kind of know that. They don't give us that anymore with flagships, and it's been like that for years. Great flat LTPO screen that is AMOLED, and it's really nice to use, and the performance is great with everything. A good, decent set of cameras here. So very minimal upgrades. Is it enough to entice buyers to go and get the global version of the 15? I think it's a solid phone. It's very good, don't get me wrong. But if you can get yourself the Xiaomi 14 for a lot cheaper, I'd say go for that if you don't mind taking a little bit of a hit with the battery life. That's the big change, is the battery life on the newer version here being much larger is a lot better and an excellent size of 5,400 milliamp hours for a 6.36 inch sized, more compact flagship phone here. So thanks a lot for watching my review of the Xiaomi 15 global version.